What's going on, Met fans? Another episode of Metcast. We are finally back, and it's been a minute. Yes, I had family over, but we got so much to talk about. Yes, the Subway Series, the latest breakdown when it comes to the New York Mets and all this trade speculation. The folks over at SNY just gave us a nugget that we will probably break down, and we should have a special guest joining us later on in the show. And if you want to get your comments read live on stream, make sure you head on over to YouTube or Facebook and consider becoming a member, because that is going to guarantee you getting your comments read live on stream. We're going to break down that and a whole lot more next on Metcast. Welcome back to another episode of Metcast. I'm excited. I am so freaking excited. I know a lot of people were over on X saying, well, we lost the final game to the New York Yankees, but it was about those first two, and they still put a hurting on the front runner for the AL Cy Young. You wake up this morning, and the Mets are only 1.5 games behind the Philadelphia Phillies, as the Marlins are currently in third place. Who would have thought about that? And the Braves continue to tank, 2-8 in their last 10, now 13.5 games out of that final, out of the division, excuse me. There's a lot of things to be excited about. The Mets offense came to play, and let's be honest, our starting pitching, we were just throwing darts at the wall at this point. Montas looked good up into the later innings where he finally got rocked in that final inning. Supposedly he was tipping pitches during his last start. I'm not too much of a believer of that. Maybe you guys are. Let me know in the comments. But it's really about what's going to happen over these next couple weeks. This will be the defining moment, not only for us this season, but David Stearns as the general manager / player baseball operations here with the New York Mets. This is the season where we find out, is he going to be soft like last year and get a roundabout pieces, the Brazabons, the Staniks, those types of players, or is he going to go big fish hunting with the Sandy Alcantara, Eugenio Suarez, guys of that nature? We're about to find out a lot about David Stearns, and unfortunately, if I'm being honest with you guys, I think the latter half is probably more what's going to happen. I think Steve Cohen might have an influence on a big bat, but I've been saying this time and time again throughout how long? How long have we been talking about the Mets just need average players? And I saw an article over on Bleacher Report that mentioned one player who's probably still a subpar outfielder, but he's better than Tyrone Taylor right now. Tyrone Taylor, look, I like the guy. He plays hard, but at the end of the day, if we're being honest here, he's a fourth outfielder at best, defensive replacement, pinch runner. That's what he is. He always gets exposed the longer that he plays. But the player that the Mets were supposedly giving up in this trade was a smaller type reliever at a AA who's been dominating. But Adolis Garcia, that's the player that Bleacher Report had us trading for. And I'll bring up his stats right here. He's the kind of player that we've been speaking about on this channel for a while. Not the big fish, but he's having a subpar season. So I think what they're hoping is him coming over from the Rangers with that 652 OPS. Maybe he could bump it back up to his career average at 737 OPS. Got a little bit of pop. He's hitting 228 with 10 homers. And when you look at him, he's got 86 strikeouts and 312 at bats. But it's not too long ago where we saw him have some type of success. 2 years ago, you saw the 29 doubles, the 39 home runs at 836 OPS. Last year, 684 OPS, and it's a 652 OPS this year. But last year, even with that low OPS, he still had 25 home runs. And that is the kind of player that I could see the New York Mets targeting this deadline, because we're not acting. We're asking for guys at the bottom of the lineup. And if you add a center fielder that has the potential to hit at least 25 to 35 home runs, 25 last year, 39 the year before that, that's the kind of player we're looking at. But Andy Martino, and I'll bring it up in 1 second, see if I could pull it up for you guys. Sorry, I'm doing this live because I was waiting for Nelson, but I think he got hung up on something really quick. Andy Martino was just over on SNY talking about the Mets might be making a trade sooner rather than later. So I want to bring that up for you guys that we could talk about it really quick before we get on to the next topic of the show. All right, here we go. Let's give it a listen really quick.
Sooner for the Mets, getting a starter or reliever?
Definitely reliever. It was July 10th last year that David Stearns and company traded for Phil Maton. I'm told, this isn't just me referring to last year, that we could see a relatively impactful reliever trade fairly early in the month. That doesn't guarantee it, but that's a contrast to the starting pitching market, which, especially when the Mets were losing a starting pitcher, it seemed like every day a few days ago, they were calling around for starting pitching. They were talking to the Pirates about Mitch Keller, or to the A's potentially about a Luis Severino, or trying to do these things. But sellers don't sell starting pitching generally until the very end of July. David Stearns could choose to get ripped off today on the starting pitching market, but he's not going to do that. He's going to wait till the end of the month. Relievers could be a different story.
Which trade is more likely to happen sooner for the Mets?
So
getting a
that's really interesting what he says. The Mets could be going after a hot. Here's my thing. We all know, if we're sitting here being honest with ourselves, we all know David Stearns is not going to throw all his chips away. He's not going to go do what Brian Cashman does and get at multiple big items. So that's the question I posed to you guys today over on YouTube. If you want to go over there and comment and vote in the poll, we got to make a decision. Do you want an elite arm in the pen, a number 2, probably more likely a number 3 starting pitcher, which we'll get to in just a couple of minutes, or do you want the big bat? And for some reason, I don't know if David Stearns has the what's to make a trade like that, to give up. I'm looking at Bleacher Report. They have Eugenio Suarez being traded to the New York Yankees, and they're giving up their 5th-ranked prospect. Now, their 5th-ranked prospect might be our 10th-ranked prospect, because we all know how abysmal the New York Yankees farm system has been and is graded out according to Baseball America and MLB.com. So we got to be cognizant when we're talking about things like that. But that is kind of what we're looking at. I don't like Brazoban last year. Didn't work out last year. It's working out this year. Stanek worked out last year in the playoffs, but both of those guys were kind of fringe acquisitions for us. And David Stearns didn't add the big bat, did not add the Juan Uribe, Kelly Johnson type, which is funny because I've been saying that for a couple weeks now. Now I see everybody on social media mentioning those two players. I wonder where they got that idea from. But I know some people in the comments are saying, well, Adolis Garcia is not a center fielder. He does have experience playing center. Maybe the Mets consider moving McNeil to out of center field, moving Nimmo over to center field. You have more options there, but you have Jesse Winker coming back. And then we did get some positive news. Let's see if I have this pulled up for you guys over here. It looks as though, it looks as though Kodai Senga is really making his way back. Could be back very shortly, as well as Sean Manaea. So that might take us out of that starting pitching market. Now, Bleacher Report also projected that Sandy Alcantara is going to be getting traded to guys, Nelson Figueroa is going to be here very shortly, so hang on for that. He just messaged me right now while we're live on stream. But they're talking about Sandy Alcantara going to Boston, which I'm not totally sure about that trade. And I know a lot of Met fans are so hung up on Jared Duran, who, let's be honest, he's having a down year this year. And I'm not such a buy low candidate with a guy like him. And the Boston Red Sox, although they're 6.5 games out of the division, they're not terribly far when it comes to the wild card. And that's what's going to drive the prices up this year. We've talked about it on the last stream. The MLB needs to be moving this trade deadline back at least 7 days. I prefer 15 days. Make it to mid-August, because the entire league is involved. You're really only looking at the absolute bottom of the barrel teams that are going to be selling. The Pittsburgh Pirates, which is going to lead me to another trade deadline guy that we saw is being popped up all over the place and talked about now, and that is Mitch Keller. Let's bring up his stats really quick. Another player that is supposedly on the trade block, and I'm not a really big fan. I know a lot of people say, well, Ray, he's a 3. Excuse me, I got something in my eye. He's not really a 3. He's not really a 2. He's having a good year. That 3.64 ERA. He's 3-10, but he is on Pittsburgh, so they're awful. Over 106 in the third innings, 84 strikeouts. That whip looks good at 29 years old, but I always go to the back of the baseball card, as we all know, right? That's something we've always done. And when you're looking at this guy's ERA throughout his career, yes, 3.64 this year on a terrible Pirates team. Last year, 4.25. The year before that, 4.21. So he hasn't had a sub-4 ERA since 2022, and that was still a 3.91 ERA. So you're going to be probably having to give up a top 5 prospect for this guy, and he's not even a number 1 or number 2 starter. And those are some of the questions I'm going to have for Nelson when he's in here. I understand the whole Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat are not on the 40-man roster, but when we go over this roster as a whole, to sign Dickie Lovelady and put him on this team, you got to make a 40-man spot for him. These guys are dominating down in the minor leagues. I just don't get the concept when it comes to not bringing these guys into the major leagues. It doesn't make sense for me. Some other names that I've noticed that were talked about, which are probably not going to happen. Let's be honest. Byron Buxton, that's another name that's been floating around. He ain't getting traded. He's just not. He is like the Jose Ramirez who I've seen mocked in trades. He is the Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians to the Minnesota Twins, the franchise player. You're not trading him unless you're willing to give up probably 2 or 3 of your top 7 prospects, which we all know David Stearns most likely will not do. But Juan Soto was brought in this offseason. That is an all-in move. Think about this. Minaya has no innings on his arm. None. And I want to see what he did in that last rehab start, where his miles per hour at, because when we first started watching his rehab down in the minors, I'm watching Sean Manaea throwing 88, 89, 90, 91 miles an hour, which we know he cannot live with at the major league level. But it's going to be slim pickings. You go up and down the current standings in MLB. How many teams are completely out of it? The Orioles, yeah, they're out of it. I don't see the Sox giving up, even though they're 6.5 out. They're not giving up. You go to the Central, the Tigers are just blowing the doors off everybody. Maybe the Royals, Guardians, and White Sox, you could start to look at those teams. Obviously, the White Sox, the Angels are 11.5 out. The the Athletics are 19. Would you entertain, and I posed this to the people over on X not too long ago, would you entertain a reunion if the A's ate some of the money in regard to Luis Severino? Because those are the kind of people we're talking about. Who's giving up an ace right now? What are you willing to give up for a Sandy Alcantara? Are you willing to include a Jet Williams? They're going to want a pitcher back. It's going to be one of the 3. You're going to give McLean, Tongue, or Sproat? I'm not. I'm just simply not. And I would give position players up from a Brandon Sproat. I mean, I've been calling for him to be up in the majors for a while. September 17th, he's going to be turning 25 years old. Look, his ERA was 7 a month ago. He's brought it down to just over 5. So he's been pitching okay as of late. I would love to get his game log. See if they have it here live. Let's see. I know he had a couple of solid games as of late. I don't know if I could. Here we go. Let's see. They're only bringing up the whole. But I know he's had a couple starts where he's gone 6 innings, 5 innings, given up 1 run, given up 2 runs. And those are the players that I would rather us bring up. But with that ado, Nelson, are you able to hear me?
I got you. You can hear me?
Perfect. Yep, I got you. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time, Nelson. Guys, Nelson Figueroa, everybody knows who he is, former New York Met, currently on Pix 11 host. If you want to get some of your questions in, you know what you have to do. Either be a member over on YouTube or a subscriber over on Facebook. We might get to a couple of your guys' questions at the end of the segment, depending on the amount of time we have left in this segment. But Nelson, give me your initial thoughts on the Subway Series, this 3-game series where, let's be honest, a lot of Met fans thought, we're going to lose 2 or 3, or we're going to get mollywopped by the Yankees. And it turned out to be, the offense came to life, something they couldn't do against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Go figure, right? That's baseball, Susan. One of the things that you love to see is that at home, the Mets have played so well all season long. And really, they've done it without having the 5 heartbeats of the pitching staff together at all. We've seen this for how many years in a row now? The best laid plans, Verlander, Scherzer, Quintana, all these best laid plans of who the 5 starters are going to be. Have we ever had the 5 starters who are supposed to start a season healthy or pitch at some point together? No, we've never had that. So the Mets continue to find ways to still play winning baseball. They're getting back reinforcements. And so to see names like Poe and Garcia and Dickie Lovelady and 34 other names, 35 pitchers they've used already, 35, leading all of Major League Baseball. And for people who don't understand how crazy that number is, they start out the season with 13 pitchers. They've already gone to 35 different pitchers. 2 of them happen to be, infielders. Players. So Janikowski gets counted, and so does Taylor. Got counted for their 1-inning appearance each. So that's 33 actual guys who have been called up to the major leagues and pitched in the ball game for the New York Mets. So to think that this is a team that is actually winning and fighting for the division is remarkable in itself. And you've seen a flux between the offense in the beginning of the season, the offense in the middle of the season, the offense now. This team can put up runs. You know what they're capable of doing. If the bottom half is able to contribute, they make themselves a very dangerous team. And once you get back those 2 big starters, you're talking about an ace and Senga and Manaya, who we are hoping turned the corner and is figuring it out, and going to be that same guy we saw last year. Then that gives you a really good 1, 2, 3 at the top of that rotation for the second half.
So that, we can get right into it right away. It's something that we were discussing, the trade deadline coming up. And I was kind of going over some of the teams that, let's be honest, 70% of the league is not going to be interested in trading, because you're going to have a lot of teams that never make the postseason that are going to be vying, especially in the American League, still appears to be wide open. If I would have told you, hey, Nelson, on July 7th, the Yankees are going to be 3 games back of Toronto, and I told you that a month ago, you'd be like, you're nuts. But the Yankees have been bitten by the injury, especially to their starting pitching. And I feel like the same thing as last year. You see guys like Rogers from Miami going for top 100 type prospects. I'm not sold David Stearns is willing to make that extremely impact move. You see the projected trades or, the fluff trades, whatever, over on Bleacher Report. The Mets are getting Adolis Garcia from, Texas. And then all the big guys, the Alcantara goes to Boston. The Suarez goes to the Yankees. It's like a lot of people around at baseball, especially some of the people I talk to, they're like, until we see Stearns make that big bite at the apple, we're not sold it's going to happen. And we saw the reporting from Andy Martino right before going live tonight that he could see the New York Mets making a move for an elite receiver. Now, your definition and our definition of elite could be, that's very subjective there, but making that move, I don't see Stearns making multiple big moves. So could we see the Kelly Johnson, Juan Uribe types, which I've been calling for? Get me a couple of guys in here that have 740 to 760 OPSs that can hit at the bottom of the lineup. I rather that and maybe, an elite reliever rather than just getting the one big bat or some back into the end rotational arm, because we're going to have guys come back. Like you said, you have multiple guys ready to come back. See how Montes has been up and down, but you got to give him time, a couple of starts. Where do you see Stearns taking the chips that he has, going with them? Or maybe he just stands pat, because as Mets fans, that's what we're used to. We are a power team being at the top, fighting for a division, and we go get, Brazoban. Yeah, that's where do you think it's going?
It's hard to argue. If you look at a success rate of what Stearns has done, he's had a lot of high return on a low amount of trade, right? The Pete Crow Armstrongs of the world in trades where the Mets have lost that trade, undoubtedly. They're few and far between, right? So you got to give a little bit of credit to the Mets for what they did and who they've given up. We kept hearing how the Kelnick deal was gonna define Mets baseball, and yes, Cano came and went, but Kelnick has not turned into that superstar. Remember the comp for Kelnick? Remember the name that they said he was most like as an outfielder? Mark Kotze. Like, you were willing to get rid of Mark Kotze to get Edwin Diaz in the deal. So it wasn't the Cano deal, it was the Edwin Diaz deal. And I think that everybody can hopefully agree that they won that deal with Diaz. When it comes to Stearns and what he likes to do, I mean, he's been a DIY renovator. That should be his show, right? Like, he gets these guys, just a little bit of love, a little bit of elbow grease, and we can get this guy to perform at a high level. And he's had success doing that. And that's fine and dandy for the small market teams, but that this team is going to be able to do something a little different. And I can tell you why I think it'll be different this time around. You have a little bit of the owner knowing what star power brings to the ballpark. Look at the ballpark. It's packed every single night, whether it's the middle of the week, whether it's a Tuesday, Wednesday night, or it's the weekend. The ballpark is packed. That Subway Series, it was mayhem at the stadium. And so I don't think this owner wants to relinquish that kind of response from the fans anytime soon. And so if it takes, a prospect or two to get you something that's more, I'm of the ilk, and I've always been of the ilk, having been a prospect that got traded during the deadline. Remember, I was traded in the deal for Curt Schilling. That's a known commodity of what Curt Schilling brought to the table. And you paired that up with Randy Johnson. So when you gave up Omar Dahl, who was having an all-star year for the first time in his career, he was the give you some current day. He was the pitcher that the Yankees just traded for Williams, the lefty pitcher. Cortez. Right. So he was Cortez before Cortez. That was Omar Dahl. Travis Lee was the prospect that could hit you 30 home runs, or he could say tomorrow he doesn't really like baseball that much and wants to go surfing. Myself was included in that deal. And then you had Vicente Padilla, who was an overnight sensation as a guy who was a starter who became a reliever and started throwing 100 miles an hour, made an all-star team, not with the Phillies, but with the next team that he played for. So that's something where you make those trades. You make those trades and you don't bat an eyelash because you're the known commodity. So if you can get an ace type pitcher, if you can get a guy that, more than just a 1-year rental, you go ahead and do it. I don't care. Like, I'm looking at all these prospects, even the guys that we're talking about bringing up, the Sproats of the world. McLean's doing well. Tong's doing well. But, I mean, you look at Sproats, pitching to a higher ERA. I love everybody saying, oh, his last outing was incredible. Stop it. Stop with the one outing is incredible. Like, let's see him do that 5 outing, a month straight. And what the minor leagues is supposed to be is you get adapted to success and failure, right? You got to have more than two good games in a row. And then when you hit a speed bump, how do you bounce back? Do you work harder on your next bullpen session? Do you go and run a little bit more? Do you go and maybe change something that was working before? There's a whole lot to that you don't want to learn on the fly at the major league level. We've seen a lot of guys come up, put on major league uniforms for the Mets and a bunch of other teams, and 2 years later, you're not even talking about. You don't even know who they are. Like, that happens so many times now because these guys are all. It's almost like a typecast of how hard they throw, how much spin rate they have, how much they have on the hook on the breaking ball. Oh yeah, we got 9 other guys who throw 98 with a hook like that, the shape like that, and all the rest of it. It's the stuff between the ears that you can't teach. It's the stuff between the ears that isn't on a piece of paper. It's the stuff really between, I say between the arms and your heart and between the legs, if you know what I mean. That's the kind of stuff that makes major league ball players that you want to go after and help you win championships. it's never going to be about the guys who are. I mean, there's so many guys you can name that have come in and been gone within 2 to 3 years, and you never hear from them again. There's a reason for that. So I think Stearns is smart, very, very smart, when it comes to recognizing players, recognizing what this team needs. And it's also a thing about fitting people in that fit in. You know what I mean? Like, you can go get a superstar, but that superstar comes around and is just. We saw that. We saw when they put together the best team money could buy. You had all these guys where it's a different. Playing in New York is different than playing in Chicago. Playing in New York is different than playing anywhere in the Midwest, up and down. Even in Houston, I've played in both. I can tell you right now. You lose in Houston, everybody's like, "Oh shucks, good luck tomorrow." You lose in New York, and they're going to tell you all about it. And so I'm of the ilk that this team is going to do some things, because you have to continue to build on what this team has done since last year, May 30th, right? They've been one of the best teams in all of baseball, hands down. The style of play, the way they play, the identity of this team. Soto starting to round into form, which we got to get into about him being snubbed for the All-Star game.
Put that out there.
Take advantage of Pete Alonso. Literally now playing for a contract year, getting a second chance at playing for that contract, and making the most of it. Making an All-Star team for the first time, and the way he's put the priority of winning over winning a home run derby, proving he's the best home run derby hitter of all time. That's the kind of thing that I like, is that this team has their priorities straight. They know, what the prize is no longer making the playoffs. The prize is getting deep into the postseason. They were one of the Final Four teams last year, and they shocked a lot of people. I don't think that they're looking to shock anybody this year by trying to get to the World Series.
So you're thinking they're going to do something. I always try to take a step back, and I say, okay, what teams are going to be looking to make moves, and
right.
What do they have to offer? Right? I mean, we could say, we want an ace, but there might not be.
You're not going to get it.
If there is out there, you might be fighting with 10 other teams for that one guy, like we saw in Miami last year. You had a guy with a 5.5 ERA going for a top 100 prospect. Nelson, that's nuts. But I keep thinking to myself, I look at a guy like Nolan McLean in the Mets farm system, 15 starts in AAA, a 2.33 ERA. He's striking out the world, over 80 innings pitched. There's nothing more in my mind for him to prove. He's 23, about to be 24 years old. It's not like he's some spring chicken 21-year-old. I mean, Brandon Sproat's going to be 25 before the end of the season in September. I mean, I understand what you said, a start or two. I feel like Sproat's been kind of consistent over the last month. He's been way better than 6 ERA, but I understand where you're coming from. But McLean has been dominating in Syracuse, where everybody hits. I mean, let's be honest. Francisco Alvarez goes down there, has 5 home runs in the first 2 weeks. It's what we're looking at in AAA. It is a hitter's haven. A guy for like Nolan McLean, who has that 70-plus sweeper, throws in the mid-90s, dominating down there. The only reason why I could see the Mets not bringing him up is maybe he's a centerpiece around getting a big piece. I mean, could we see that where the Mets say, you know what? We tried it last year. Don't forget. And a lot of Met fans like to have amnesia. I try to consider myself an optimist, but a realist. The Mets had Acuna Jr. available. And they didn't bring him up. And everyone's like, why aren't you bringing this kid up? He's related to Ronald, even though he couldn't hit in the minors, but they eventually did. But even this past offseason, we heard the rumblings. He was available for the right price. And I feel like the Mets felt he got exposed. He killed his market value this year. I think that there's no doubting that. That's what happened. He killed his market value. He's down in AAA again. So maybe the Mets are saying, you know what? Instead of bringing the Sproats up, instead of bringing the McLeans up, if we're contemplating potentially trading them, we'll bring them up after July, the 31st deadline. Because I keep thinking, Nelson, and it brings me to my next point. I'd love to get your opinion on it. Mark Vientos is falling off a cliff. The guy's hitting like 080 the last month. Like, it is terrible. And I don't know how long of a period he's going to get. It's not like a short stint anymore. He's had a ton of games, and he's not great defensively, so we rely on his bat. And Beatty's actually been up and down, but he's showing a little pop, a little bit of promise, a little bit more consistency. Could we see Vientos be a part of one of those packages where he's young, he's under control, the Mets stacked at that position? Maybe he's the guy who brings you, I don't know, a Sandy Alcantara we keep talking about, but even he's awful.
Yeah, he hasn't been pitching well yet.
6 innings, 5 earned runs. Yeah, the month of June he had a 4.3 ERA, but the month of May he had over 8.5 ERA. And in one start against Milwaukee, and let's be honest, we're on another collision course with them. He got tagged. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 5 earned runs over 96 pitches. So he still can't find it, but he's the guy that I'm looking at. He's the blue chip that's out there. He's under control another couple of years. He's got the potential, maybe getting him with Hefner, because I want to get your opinion on Alcantara, what you think with Vientos, and I have one more follow-up after that.
So Alcantara, again, you're talking about a former Cy Young winner, a guy who's coming off of Tommy John. So it takes a little while to get acclimated and comfortable in your own skin again. So just based on, track record and what you're having, if you're looking for him to be the top of the rotation, then you're looking for too much. If you're able to plug him in as a number 3 and number 4, and pay that kind of value for him, of course, Miami's going to try and get max for what they can get for him. But all of baseball is looking at the same thing, and maybe they bypass and they wait another year on it, because if he was lighting it up, then it was a different story, right? Remember how who was it, Chapman last year? Chapman pitching for the Royals, just lighting it up, and you were like, okay, everybody's going to be wanting to go out and get this guy, and we saw him go. He's another name, like your back end of the bullpen guy. Get him. He's only $10 million. Get him. You get him and bring him in. He's proven that he can pitch and big places, high leverage. You go get a guy like that, because that's going to help also by your starters not having to go an extra inning if you can do that. For me, Alcantara, I'm not 100% on. If he was the Alcantara of the Cy Young year, or of course that's what you're looking at, as a guy who can do that, have the command and the power that he had previously, but he's not all the way back yet. So I don't think the Mets are jumping too much at that one. There's just, as you said, the new baseball is all about having a chance, right, to get there by the deadline. You look by the deadline at a lot of these teams. Even Boston is only what, 6.5?
Yes.
Right? Boston is 6.5 back. That's only 3.5 back from the Yankees. And Boston is terrible, right? They got rid of Rafael Devers, to which I still need to find out what the hell really happened there, because I don't care what the package was that they got back.
All over him.
I would have traded. I would not have only traded them, but I would have driven them all to the airport to get.
Here you go, Nelson. Boston is 2.5 back of the wild card. They're the first team outside the wild card right now. That's what's killing the whole Major League Baseball. You look out of teams that are over 5.5 games out. There's only 4.
Right, and
you want
Colorado, the White Sox, the Marlins are actually way better than them. So you got the Nats. What are you getting from them? You're getting their best pitcher, which is the worst pitcher on your team if you're one of the high competing teams. So is there anything to really get in that case? Again, the Devers thing still wows me, because if I'm the Mets, and even with a Mark Vientos being healthy, what you're getting out of Rafael Devers for 10 years.
That'd be the scariest 1 through 6, maybe in the history of the game. Let's be honest. We're actually with way Brandon playing.
Yeah. If you would have been able to if you would have been even a phone call where they say, hey, listen, we know you guys got a lot of prospects. What would you be willing to give us? You pick whatever 5 you want.
But they didn't give up anything, Nelson. Look at what the Giants gave up.
I know. I'm not understanding. This is Luka Doncic part 2, where it was a deal. It was a deal to one team and only one team, and of course that team's going to say yes.
And they both go to California, right?
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how do you give up that kind of player without shopping him around to teams that need third basemen? I know the Yankees are your rival, but and I don't know if they had even anything close in their farm system. to give up to get that. I mean, whatever it would have taken, you would have given, right? You could get a king's ransom for Rafael Devers, and don't give me this. He's a bad guy. He doesn't want to play positions that he never played before. Barry Bonds was a straight up not good guy. I won't say the real word. And everybody talks about how they hated him, but I'll be damned if anybody said they didn't want to be on his team.
The 86
or
Mets,
want him on his team.
Boys, Nelson, you tell me.
No, they live in infamy because of it.
You know what?
They live in infamy because of it. It's not about he's bad for the clubhouse. You know what? Does he give us a better chance to win during those 3 hours that we're asking him to perform? Then that's all I care about. I don't need everybody. I need a couple of guys that can sign autographs, shake babies, kiss hands, whatever you got to do. You got enough for those guys in the clubhouse. I need guys that can play and I can count on. If you put Rafael Devers' bat in this lineup, forget it. It's such a monster lineup. And we've seen it before where they try to put a lot of superstars together and it clashed. It didn't mix. Los Mets, I was a part of that team in 2008 where we had, superstars all together with Delgado, Beltran. You had all the Reyes. You had all the different. I laughed. I said it was the United Nations of Latin America. We had Dominicans, Venezuelans, Puerto Ricans. We had the creme de la creme of all of them all together, and it was supposed to be easy. And we've talked about it before. Like when you watch the WBC and you see these guys get together from different teams and they're playing for that country. You see the bond that they have, and that's why it was like, oh my God, if we can get Correa and Baez and Lindor and have those three guys on the infield at the same time, right? He wanted to do it. They were really talking about doing it, but they weren't able to. Right, they weren't able to do it. When you look at Correa and Baez, their numbers have fluctuated. I mean, Baez has had a nice bounce back year this year. He's an all-star this year, but I mean, he's got 9 home runs and 40 RBIs and batting 300 something, or not even 280 something now. He was batting over 300 for a while there, so great bounce back for him. I'm happy for him, but I think when you look at how you build a team and what works and how many of these guys you have to put together, and what opportunities you have to win a championship, there's a reason why you don't see back-to-back champions anymore. There's a reason why you don't see dynasties, like it said before, because take Texas Rangers from just 2 years ago. For 5 straight seasons before they won the World Series, they were either in last place in their division or the worst team in baseball. Okay? They lost 98 games the year before they won a World Series. So don't tell me they had a plan and it worked. They got hot at the right time. They made some trades that worked out. The Garcia trade where he was DFA'd and they still kept him in the minor leagues. And they said, hey, you know what? Swing for the fences. And it worked. And he wound up being the stud of the playoffs for them. You know what I'm saying? DeGrom wasn't involved in any way, shape, or form. Right. DeGrom wasn't involved in any way, shape, or form for the championship. Scherzer, was hit or miss because of his back. You had Jordan Montgomery. Remember that name? Where's he at? I don't even. Jordan Montgomery, right? Jordan Montgomery pitched lights out to get them to that championship. But at the end of the day, they fell off a cliff the very next year. And so it's very hard to do it and be sustainable. You hear Steve Cohen says it early and often. Sustainable success. We're looking for sustainable success. And what they have in the minor leagues, we've seen some flashes of it, right? We like Luis. He won rookie of the first month of the season, played at a very high level, but you get exposed when you're playing every single day, and you really shouldn't be playing yet at every single day. So that we saw that happen with Acuna. He winds up going down. Alvarez has never panned out from the prospect that he was supposed to be. He was the number one prospect in all of baseball. And right now you would scream if you could get yourself a serviceable catcher to be your starter or backup for Alvarez, right? I mean, you're hoping that he found the stroke because he changed it back to his old batting stance down in the minor leagues, which I can never understand trying to do that. And you're doing it. And here's the thing. And you're doing it while playing in the big league level. That makes no sense in the world to me.
Zero.
And going back to it at some point had to be like an option. So he went back to AAA and they said, hey, go back to your old stance. and he's showed some immediate dividends with it, right?
Is
And they're
that,
like,
is that
oh,
an indictment? Look, and I'm not
no, it's not. It's not on Eric Chavez. No. It's not on
I
Eric
have
Chavez.
not called for it. I know I see people in the comments calling for it right now.
Yeah, it's not Eric Chavez. Listen, when I tell you that, when you're working on something, and it wasn't Chavez who sent them to the JD Martinez hitting gurus. He wanted to do it. He respected JD Martinez and his hitting philosophy and his hitting style. Loved the way he hit the ball to right field with Alvarez's power, and he could hit that ball to right field, but still turn on balls and hit him out to left. You're looking at a guy that he has the potential to hit 35, 40 home runs, but he also swings and misses a lot and chases all over the yard. So no matter what your batting stance is, if you're and you're guessing as a major league hitter, do you know who's guessing as a major league hitter? Mr. Mark Vientos is guessing as a major league hitter. He's guessing for breaking balls and then trying to catch up to fastballs. And then when he's looking for fastballs, he's getting breaking balls. There is nowhere worse to be as a major league hitter. Okay? And that's what it comes down to. It's not his skill set. It's not he lost his power. It's not any of that. He is guessing, and he's playing the game with a pitcher, and it doesn't matter who the pitcher is. What he's playing is, I'm guessing I'm going to get a breaking ball because it's a 2-strike count. He gets a fastball inside. He's not ready for it. And then, well, is he going to go with a breaking ball now, or is he going to double up? Too much is going on. He's not reading, reacting, and just being able to hit the ball. He's way too good of a hitter. He's done it for too far along. Even at the minor league level, it's the same dimensions. It's the same 60 feet, 6 inches. You're facing guys who throw 98 miles an hour with nasty sliders as well in the minor leagues, and he's always hit. Right now, I have never seen a player fall off this hard, this far, and for this amount of time. And you can't say he's not pressing. Every at-bat is pressing. It's almost as if he feels like if I hit this home run and this at-bat, I'm back to where I was last year. No, you're not. You're not even close. But he's got to get one. He's only has 2 hits in his last 27 plate appearances. And if you go back further than that, his last almost 50 plate appearances, he's batting 180. He's batting 80. He's batting 180 if you look at that. 180. Like, that's not something that you can hang your hat on. So for all the talk we talk about these prospects, all the talk we talk about making adjustments at the big league levels, hitting coaches can only do for certain things. They prepare you for what you may see from a pitcher, but the human element comes into play because that's what I know. I know as a pitcher, if this guy is hot because he's getting a lot of fastballs, he's not going to see a fastball from me. And I throw more than 2 pitches. And then if he might see a fastball later on after I showed him so many breaking balls, you can never factor in, it says 72% of the time he goes to his slider with a 2-strike count. Against everybody else I face, but against you, when I know you're struggling and you're looking for something to hang your hat on, that 72% slider, you may not see one slider in that situation. And that's that's how easy it is to mess with a hitter's mind.
Nelson, you're getting a lot of hate from some of the people. And look, you're keeping it real. That's why I'm friends with you. I love your opinions. Obviously, you're always going to get hate and not hate. I got to take a quick break. We got a super chat for you. You might not like it, but I got to read. That's the part of the program. Here we go, Nelson. Please. You don't know what you're talking about. All propaganda. You sound like a paid propaganda. What do you say about? I actually disagree.
Where was the propaganda?
Calling the players out.
Where was the propaganda that I spoke of?
Some of the people that were talking about the prospects, and look, I will never forget this. For all Mets fans that want to get on Nelson, let me defend you really quick, Nelson, even though you don't need me to. But I will say that over the last 10 years, the New York Mets have had 2 prospects ranked number 1 in baseball. 2. Francisco Alvarez, who's turned out to be probably not in the major leagues the way he's going over the next 2 years. And the other one was supposed to be a great shortstop. His name, Ahmed Rosario, who's on his 6th team in 10 years, for crying out loud. So that's where you get it. And I'm a prospect hugger. I'm like Ernest Dove. I love my prospects. But proving, come on. That's the Will Pond way of thinking, is to hold your prospects. When you have elite talent out there, now, like I said, elite is subjective, but we got to keep it real here. Go get the what has it done for the Yankees, Nelson? How many top prospects have they given up? How many World
Mhm.
Series have they won? How many
Mhm.
top prospects, people, have the Dodgers traded over the last 5 years? How many championships they have? I mean,
Mhm.
hello, let's not forget Texas traded Luis Acuna Jr., another
Mhm.
top 100 prospect, ranked number 2 in their system, got a World Series, and what has Acuna Jr. turned into? We got to keep perspective on that. And I love Brandon Sproat, and I love Jonah Tung, and I love McLean because the New York Mets, as Met fans, were used to us bringing up big-time starting pitchers. But you know who is supposed to be big-time as well? Guys like Steven Matz who are untouchable. Remember him? Remember
Mhm.
Rafael Montero was unfreaking tradable?
He was actually starting over DeGrom. Remember that?
Oh my
They
gosh, Nelson.
they had him
And I
starting
get
over
you,
DeGrom.
but we got to keep up. Look, I love the Mets. Nelson, I believe, is a Mets fan as well. But we
Mhm.
got to call a spade when we're out here, people. You
No,
have
no
to.
doubt.
You
No
have
doubt.
to.
No, I listen. As I said, anybody in the comments that thinks that I have to toe the company line has not watched me long enough. I have never been someone who's towed the company line. I call it like I see it, and if there's something that I say, I've been wrong before. I'm not perfect. I'm not Fixtradamus, but at the same time, I've been a prospect in an organization. I've been traded multiple times. I've been a guy who's been in different clubhouses and has seen what makes teams tick. So watching it in perspective of, oh yeah, you got all these great prospects. They've got to perform. They've got to perform. You can rank them all you want. They've got to perform at the next level, right? You get to a certain point where you've shown everything that you could possibly show, and they are ready for you to make your major league debut. You want to go back to the 5 aces. That never was a real thing. Okay.
Mhm.
That never was a real thing. On paper, yeah, you had the least of them. The least of them was Steven Matz, who was throwing 96 miles an hour, which at the time in Major League Baseball, for starters, was the second hardest throwing left-handed pitcher. Number 1 was David Price. Number 2 was him. Okay. So that's why they banked it on, oh my God, look at what we got. We got a flamethrower, a guy. His best claim to fame as a Met was his first game where he went 3 for 4, 4 RBIs. And I can't
I
remember
know,
another.
double in the
I
gap.
can't remember another Steven Matz moment bigger than his first game. You look at Syndergaard. Syndergaard's how old now? 32. He's 32 maybe, and he's out.
He just
He's
got a
out of
minor league
baseball.
invite.
He just got a minor league invite, so he's been out of baseball for 2 years at least. I mean, don't sit here and tell me that I didn't know. I'm gonna shill for the company. I'm telling you the exact opposite. Like, I would rather see a guy who's been doing it for 10 years than bring up a prospect, no matter how good he's been doing in the minor leagues, because you have to worry about these guys nowadays because they haven't. If they're having success, great. If they haven't had failure, they don't know what it's like. And I'm going to give you a name, Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey knew all about success all too well. He had success from the moment he stepped on a big league mound. When Matt Harvey started having failure, it was very difficult to pitch at the same level and get back to that same level. All right. And I've always equated it to when Mike Tyson first got knocked out by Buster Douglas, he was never the same. Okay. You're used to being on top. It's easy. Once you get knocked down off that hill on that pedestal and you get out there on the mound and you're getting booed by your home team, by your home fans, it's a very difficult thing to deal with. And a lot of people are never the same. He wound up getting traded to Cincinnati, and you can't tell me he was ever the same. It wasn't necessarily injuries. He had injuries, yes, but he was still throwing 96, 97 miles an hour. Right? So it's not just the injuries. It's also, there's a mental side of this thing that is well beyond the grasp of most fans. Okay. The physical tools, they come and go. It's the mental side of this thing. And I had said it long ago. They asked me, if you had to keep one of the 2 pitchers, DeGrom was the one you were definitely keeping. It was going to be Wheeler or Syndergaard if you were going to pay somebody. Who would it be? And I said Wheeler. And they were like, why? I said, well, first off, he already had his Tommy John, and he's worked his way back. He's had a time to have some failure, and he has success now and learned how to pitch without having his best fastball and became a complete pitcher. Why? Because he used to sit in the bullpen and watch DeGrom throw bullpens and learn from the guy who was the best in baseball at the time, right? He wasn't out there trying to be on Game of Thrones. He wasn't out there at Rangers games watching and hanging out in the wee hours of the night. He was more concerned about the craft and what it took for DeGrom to be the amazing pitcher that he was. And he learned a lot about throwing and being able to dot the outside corner, glove side to a right-handed hitter, and being able to throw his slider. Well, here's the thing. Wheeler also had a curveball, a changeup, a split finger. He had more pitches, and he still threw 98 miles an hour. So Wheeler said, if he can do it, why not me? And he worked just as hard on his craft as Jacob deGrom did. And look at what Wheeler's turned into, one of the best pitchers in the game. So the 5 aces was a myth. That was never going to happen. Sounded good because you had these 5 pitchers who could throw hard and spin the ball some, but about being able to do it at that high of a level for a long sustained time is an improbability. So get me somebody who has. I give up the prospect. Look what they traded for Piazza. Can you name the guys in the Piazza trade? They got a Hall of Famer, right? And they gave up Preston Wilson, Ed Yarnell, and Geoff Getz.
It's finding that guy too who's in his 20s under control like that.
No doubt.
That's what David Stern's supposed to do. And to back your point, remember last year, bring up Brandon Sproat right from Double-A. In Single-A, 2-1, 107 ERA in 6 games. In Double-A, over 11 games, 2.45 ERA. Goes to Triple-A, 7 games, ERA 7.5. Because remember what David Stern said? Everybody's like, you got to bring him up. And he's like, I need him to experience failure because we got to see how he reacts. And I think maybe that's the reason why they haven't brought McLean up yet. Because where's he experienced? He has a 2 ERA everywhere he's gone, including Triple-A.
But here's the here's the other thing that you have to understand, and this I can speak to in great length. I was with the Diamondbacks when I got traded over there the first time from the Mets with Bernard Gilkey. And I'm in AAA, and I am top 5 in every category: ERA, wins, strikeouts. I'm top 5 in the league, not on my team, in the league. And everybody else around me is getting called up. And I am literally going to the ballpark, and I'm sitting and having these long conversations with my pitching coach, Chuck Niffen. And I'm like, what do I need to do? I'm 24 years old. I'm pitching my butt off. I'm working my butt off. Like, what do I need to do? And he said, have patience. He goes, those other guys are here today, gone tomorrow. Sound familiar? The Mets have been through 35 pitchers. When they want you up there for a long, extended period of time and they have plans for you, there's a reason why you're down there a little bit longer. There's a reason why they want to see failure on the minor league level. There's a reason why they want to see you face the same team more than 2 times. Like, people don't realize that. Like, baseball's hard when you face the same team several times in a season. Not a lot of people do that. Like, you'll see guys, they'll pitch 1 time against each team because you go series to series to series. It's very difficult to land on that same team over and over again. The Mets used to miss Fernandez. They used to miss Fernandez from the Miami Marlins because he would pitch, the day before, whatever it may be. So for like a year and a half, they didn't face Fernandez. And he was the best pitcher for the Miami Marlins. So that happens a lot. So they want to see you face these guys multiple times. They want to see, how you make adjustments, how they make adjustments to you. Because anytime that you're a pitcher with that kind of stuff that Sproat has, facing a team for the first time, it's going to be advantage pitcher, always. He's got that kind of stuff.
That's why spring training is like that. Nobody hits.
Nobody hits because they don't. Here's the thing in spring training. How many breaking balls are they faced? They're doing live BP. They're getting fastballs to hit. They're not even trying to hit them. They're tracking. They're getting their eye accustomed to seeing the ball spin away from them. And they're not going out there swinging at that. They'll take it for strike 3. So you'll see guys dominate early in spring training. I used to get myself, I was 120 pitches ready in spring training because I knew I was going to have an opportunity to open some eyes. I knew what was going to, what was going to be able to show what I can do. And then as the game started and you're starting to face the A lineups and not facing guys number 98, 97, that's when you get challenged. And they're, okay, you're going to face that same team next week. Okay, I'll be ready. I'll be prepared for that. And then, before the season starts, they're not having the ace pitch against him because he's going to pitch against them in the first week. Well, guess what? I'm going to face him again 3 times in a row. And if I can show that I can get him out 3 times in a row, that only boosts my opportunity to be in the big league. So whenever I talk about these prospects and talk about what it takes to make it at that level, you can go Google. I had a 4.55 ERA at the major league level, but I also pitched for 11 years at the big leagues. Look at my minor league numbers and what my numbers were. I didn't have a 2 point whatever it is ERA for only 6 games. I had barely over a 3 ERA for my entire career, which is 14 years in the minor league. So you're looking at Mr. 4A pitcher. You're looking at the guy who went up and down at some point. But in the beginning of my career, they said before 500 innings and getting every experience at the AAA level, I wasn't going to get called up to the big leagues. And I had to swallow it for 2 years. 2 years I sat in AAA being the number one pitcher at that level and waiting for an opportunity. And why? The Diamondbacks had they had starting pitching well-known guys because they were in that expansion draft. So they had Randy Johnson, they had Todd Stottlemyre, they had Armando Reynoso, they had Omar Dahl. They had all these guys that had experience over me, and it was like, your time will come. And it took an injury and a trade and everything else, and finally I made it. But listen, you can't sit here and say that the Mets have had this robust market for pitchers, hitters, whatever it is. The minor league system throughout the years, best hitter to come up, through the system has been Pete Alonso. Before that, who you got? Who's the best hitter for the Mets to come up through the system?
I know.
Daniel Murphy?
When you think about it. Now, I wanted to follow up because we're talking about the pitching. And this is why, if I'm the Mets, and I understand why the name keeps coming about, because you have to ask yourself, Nelson, how much do you trust the top of this rotation? Minaya, I got a lot of question marks about him, and Met fans kill me for that when I say that, but the guy was good for half a season last year. He was okay in the first half. He dropped the arm slot, and it changed a lot about him, but he was never the ace or the frontline guy that we're asking him or paying him to be, and now he hasn't thrown a pitch yet, and it's July. He'll be back by the end of this week, supposedly this weekend series, which is great to hear, but I don't know what I'm getting out of him. And Sanga's made out of tissue paper. I mean, let's be honest. The guy's been in the major leagues. He can't stay healthy. So if you lose one of those two guys, that's what's good. If we're going to win a World Series this year, it's going to be led by those two guys at the top.
Yeah,
I want to get another arm in here. It's a legitimate arm. And that's why you hear, the reports that the Mets have expressed interest or reached out to Pittsburgh in regard to Mitch Keller, another guy that I'm like, no, thank you. It's going to cost you a decent price. 29 years old, 3.64 ERA, but then you look down the track record, 4.5 ERAs every single year of his career, and you're going to have to pay a top 5 prospect for him.
All right, I'm getting a charger. I'm listening to you and I'm talking. I'm just got to get out.
Take your time.
Give me 1 second.
So yes, comments. Guys, again, if you guys are members and you want to get a question into Nelson, you just have to type it in, and I'll pull you up. Because I always said the members will get priority in regard to all that. Let's see what we got here. Yes, the real reason McLean's pro Jet Williams, Drew Gilbert haven't been called up in service time. I'm not sure about Super 2 not qualify anymore. So if you bring him up now or later, I don't think it really matters. And I don't see Steve Cohen, and we know this from the past. Steve Cohen is not the owner to manipulate service time. He's just not. He's willing to pay.
He doesn't have to
pay guys early. There's no way he's paying Juan Soto $800 million and manipulating service time when we have a division that's on the line. There's no way. Oh, you're right. We also have David Peterson in the rotation. But another thing we have to contemplate, we keep talking about the Mets adding a relief arm. Are you really thinking that Clay Holmes is going to pitch as a starting pitcher the rest of this entire season? I mean, you have to right now because of injuries, but it's July, the beginning of July, and he's already passed his innings.
Well past.
You still have 3 months left in the season.
So Clay Holmes is a very interesting study as of right now, and they've had almost too much success with him. And they needed him, and he's gone out there and pitched. And he's gone 5 innings, 6 innings here and there, but he's gone 5 innings for the most part. He's been rock solid. I think you're pleasantly pleased with what you've gotten out of Clay Holmes thus far. My biggest concern is I continue to watch a velocity decrease. This is a guy who, as a closer, was 98 with that bowling ball sinker, and he's been sitting at like 92 right now as a starter. What I've loved about him is that he has the ability to throw pitches that he didn't even have last year, and his changeup, his sweeper, and he'll go out there and throw a lefty 5 straight changeups and get it out, never having to use his fastball. He's been a surprise as how well he can pitch and not just be a thrower, a guy that was a back end of the bullpen, 2-pitch pitcher, fastball slider, sinker slider guy. And he's had great success doing that. Now, if I had my ways and you got another starter and all those guys came back healthy, and even if you had, the Blackburns and the McGills of the world and all that other nonsense, if you were able to slide Holmes down and use him as a reliever in your bullpen with Edwin Diaz, Stanek has been kind of hit and miss, hot and cold.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 100-mile-an-hour fastball, nasty stuff, but for some reason we see him kind of lose it from time to time. Brazelban, Brooks Raley has been on the mend and on his way back as well, so you're going to get a lefty back here soon. That's a nice option to have, is being able to take Clay Holmes and shift him into the bullpen. That's where I think, at some point there's got to be a law of diminishing returns. And can you continue to keep pushing him out there? The first half is almost over. If they had a healthy rotation, sure, they would have skipped him a few times already, just to give him an extra week's rest. But they're not able to do that as of yet. And, he's like I said, he's pitched fantastic. So, yes, Clay Holmes, I didn't need Clay Holmes to be the ace of the staff, the opening day starter. That was not the plan. But he has taken the reins and taken it on his shoulders and done admirably with it. We've seen David Peterson, since he's thrown that complete game shutout, he's gotten knocked around a little bit, right? Everything's not as crisp as it once was. And that's the new starting pitcher. You don't see guys going complete game, 10 plus strikeouts and then bouncing back the next game and giving you that same kind of performance. It's very difficult for the modern pitcher to do that because the focus is going 100% instead of going 85, 90% for the whole game. You're going 100% for as long as you can. Oh my God, wait a minute. I'm in uncharted territory. I'm in the 7th inning and I only have 80 pitches. What am I going to do? So you keep going and you give it all you have. He went back that next Pittsburgh game and pitched into the 8th inning. And he went 2 batters too many. And that one spiraled out of control. Not the Pittsburgh game. That was the Atlanta game before the Pittsburgh game. The Pittsburgh game, he just got beat up. The Atlanta game, he was winning 4-1. Remember? He left 2 guys on base. And then Reed Garrett came in, almost worked the Houdini magic trick. Bases loaded, nobody out. Got 2 outs and then gave up the bases clearing double to tie the game. So Peterson is another guy where since his hip surgery, he's been a different pitcher. And he's pitched like the guy that they drafted, the prospect that they thought they had.
Yeah, the first round pick out of Oregon. Right.
And he went through the ups and downs. He had success and then got sent down to the minor leagues when they didn't have need for him. They went out and got the bigger names and he went down to the minor leagues. So I give respect to Peterson for all he's been through and the way that he's pitching. So, but we got to see him bounce back. The All-Star break can't come soon enough for him to get another couple of days rest so that he comes back a little stronger in the second half. So listen, we're speculating. I feel like that's something that we can do. If I'm playing MLB The Show, that's the moves I'm making. But it comes to David Stearns, there's something behind that.
I think the perfect pitcher's out there.
Who do you think it is? Who you got?
The former 34th round pick in 2011 and former New York Met. And it's probably going to cost you a lot. And he's 35 years old. And no, it's not Jacob deGrom. It's Seth Lugo.
Seth Lugo. Mm-hmm.
That's the pitcher. I mean, he's having a great year. 2.65 ERA in Kansas City. They stink. He's going to be available. He's got a player option next year for $15 million, which you'd gladly hope he picked up. But what are you giving up for a guy like that? It's not like the Scherzer situation where the Mets are paying down a contract and he's pitching bad. Or are you willing to give up one of these top pitching guys for a guy like him? Because he might be that missing piece where you might go Senga, Lugo, Manaea, Peterson as your 4 you go to battle with. You move Clay Holmes to the bullpen. You pick up one more bullpen arm. All of a sudden, this team's staff looks completely different. And it also provides you that little bit of insurance if Manaea or Senga get hurt, need a little bit of time off. The Mets lack a stopper, Nelson. We talked about the Yankees the other day. All we kept hearing was they got the stopper, even though we got to him out in the 5th inning. Not so much of a stopper against us, but we lack that stopper right now. Yeah. We just do.
No doubt. No doubt. You need a frontline guy, the aces of the world, aces of a staff. And undoubtedly, Max Fried was an ace of a staff when he was with the Atlanta Braves. Max Fried got paid the highest contract for a left-handed starting pitcher in the history of the game for that reason. He is an ace pitcher. And didn't need time to get acclimated to New York, didn't need time to do anything different, because what Max Fried focuses on and concentrates on, Max Fried's world is 60 feet 6 inches. It's the same distance in every single ballpark. He's throwing to a catcher. He's not even throwing to hitters. He's throwing to a catcher. He doesn't care who's in the box. His stuff, whether it's his curveball, whether it's his changeup, whether it's his fastball, which I didn't realize he was topping out at 98. I didn't know Max Fried threw that hard. He just has that bulldog mentality without having to have the bravado of a bulldog. He reminds me of, they used to, Maddox is the professor, and, you look at a guy like Oral Hershiser, who's the bulldog. But if you saw him in the street, you're like, this guy's a ball player? Max Fried's that guy, but he's so tough-minded, can go out there and battle with the best of them. And you know what? He doesn't care who's the guy pitching against him. I got to pitch better than that guy. No, Max Fried's going to pitch to the best of his ability out there and control what he can control, and he's really good at doing that. So the Yankees got a gem in that one, and he has proven, his weight in gold to be
his
that
whole thing was
stopper.
always health. That's it.
Yep.
It's
Oh,
health
yeah.
with
And
him. 8 years that's a long time. I still can't
it
believe
is a
that
long
the
time.
Braves
It
gave
is a
up
long
on
time.
him. I still can't believe that. But guys, that is
I'm
what we
sorry.
have for Nelson Figueroa joining us. If you're enjoying this stream, make sure you give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, follow us on all platforms. We're brand new on TikTok, so if you want to give us a follow over there. And if you want to get your comments read next time, head on over to YouTube or on Facebook, as we obviously got the Hebrew Super Chat. Saw some of our members in there. Love chatting it up with you guys. Become a member. Subscribe over on Facebook. Any parting words, Nelson? What are the Mets going to do with the deadline?
I think they're going to get several pieces that they need. Remember when 2015, when the Mets went out, they had the huge splash with Cespedes, but it was key pieces, like you said, the Kelly Johnsons, the Uribes of the world, the guys on the bench that you can count on. Mauricio is auditioning. Beatty's auditioning. They're giving them extended looks because they want to show some success on the major league side. Acuna, you want to bring him back up if you get rid of one of those two guys, right? Acuna is the guy that you feel is a hidden gem still, and especially the way he runs the bases. He's a guy that can help you win every single ball game with his legs alone. You get to the ghost runner situation, you're putting him as a pinch runner. Hello, that's easy. So I think when you look at what moves can be made, you're shopping any and all these guys if you're going to be able to get something reliable. Talking about Suarez being a third baseman, that if we're looking to move somebody, you hear Suarez name being out there. Love to see him in a Met uniform. If you have to give up
that'd be the
a Vientos,
right
if you have to give up a Vientos to get, absolutely. And I think that's a huge move that can be made that will help you instantly. And I'm a huge boost for the Mets and the Mets morale. So the pitching stuff can all be slid down, but it's going to take that lineup to be a little bit more consistent, especially at the bottom. Tyrone Taylor's a blessed gem out there with the defensive glove, out there and the arm even. But when it comes to hitting, we've seen him have some. We've seen him last year. He had some good hits in September and even into the playoffs.
Yep.
But the consistency just isn't there, and that's the reason why you don't hear his name more often amongst the game's really good center fielders.
That's right. And by the way, Luis Angel Acuna, 40 at-bats, OPS, 712 at AAA. That stock continues to plummet. Do not buy it. I'm telling you right now, do not buy it, Mets fans. But that's all we got for you today. Nelson, thanks so much. And we'll catch you on television. And hopefully, for all that is green in the world, do not lose 2 of 3 to the Baltimore freaking Orioles. They stink.
Yeah, no, we can't have another Pittsburgh fiasco.
Exactly. All right, everybody, thanks so much. Make sure you smash that like button. Give us a follow over on X. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Consider becoming a member to get your questions read live on stream. Until next time, let's go Mets.